Hello everyone, this is Carter Wetzel and we are live from Studio B. This is 109.2, your home for discussion on playwrights, literature, English, and everything in between. First off, I would like to introduce you my co-host, Oliver Dale, who is a professor from Oxford in England. Thank you, Carter, for having me on the show today once again. Very happy to be here today to be able to contribute to the discussion on The Crucible and everything it has to offer. It was a tremendous playwright with so many themes, and I can't wait for us to jump into some of the more nitty-gritty stuff that the play has to offer. And me as well, Oliver. Finally, guys, we welcome today onto the show, for the first time ever, the head of the English department from the University of Marquette, Francis O'Connor. Pleasure to be here, gentlemen. Glad to be here. Should be a lovely discussion, I should think. So first and foremost, the way this format will work is I will introduce a theme, and from there we can all chime in and expand on the theme. Hopefully we can all have some claims as well as counterclaims for each other's. Disagreements are encouraged. The viewers love a little rough and tumble, don't they? They certainly do! The play we are studying today was written in 1953 by the American playwright Arthur Miller. It was a dramatized and partially fictionalized story of the Salem witch trials that took place in the province of Massachusetts Bay during 1692 and 1693. Most of our listeners know the main storyline, so we will be operating under the assumption that you know what we are talking about. This will not be a light discussion, and from here, we will not be slowing down. We will be right back with our first theme topic, gentlemen. But first, a quick commercial break. Hello everyone, this is 109.2 and we would love to give a shout out to our supporters, the Minnesota Center for Arts and Literature, for continued support for our program, and also to our patron listeners who monthly contribute to the program and let it continue to be a great success. Finally, special shout out to Mr. Bonnie and the class from Blaine High School for tuning in and listening to our program today. It should be a good one. Grab some popcorn and maybe a Coca-Cola, because we're about to get nitty-gritty with the people of Salem. Welcome back, guys. Our first theme of the day with The Crucible is lies and deceit. Obviously a very broad theme, so to narrow it down, I hope both of you can make a claim and then support it. And from there, we all can just bounce ideas, agreements, and disagreements off of each other. I am so glad you started off with this theme, Carter, because there are just so many things in the story, text-wise, examples, that we can definitely infer that this theme was very important to the author, Arthur Miller. Arthur Miller used the theme lies and deceit in The Crucible to express the power it can have on a large crowd of people when a lie is used to and committed to. The first lie in the playwright was by Abigail after her father Paris pressured her into it in order to save his reputation at the pulpit. Paris said to Abigail, and I quote, "Then you were conjuring spirits last night." To which Abigail responded, No, I, sir. Tituba and Ruth." In the film we saw immediate effects of this, as Paris becomes panic-stricken along with Putnam. News quickly spreads and chaos breaks loose. The point being here that Arthur Miller was trying to make with the cause-effect of the lie is how quickly one small lie can lead to such a large reaction. I am glad that you mentioned that, Oliver, especially if we take into context that Arthur Miller wrote this book with the amount of hate that was being circulated throughout the United States towards communism. That hate was being pushed especially by McCarthy at the time, who was using the simple lie of accusing others around him in the political realm of being communists in order to further his career. Yeah, it is very interesting that Arthur Miller wrote this book during the McCarthy era. You can definitely see the effects of it running thick through the playwright. Now, shortly after Abigail accuses Tituba, she then said to the girls, and I paraphrase here, "Tituba conjured Ruth Putnam. That is all. You will not speak a word about the other things, and if you do, I will make you wish you had never seen the sun go down." So what we can see here already is that Abigail was committed to the lie, and she realized that she needed to make those around her commit to it as well. So she threatened her fellow friends, and by making them go along with the lie through intimidation. Arthur Miller had seen the effects of this in the McCarthy era when McCarthy had used those around him and manipulated other figureheads into supporting his countless accusations that he had leveraged against other innocent people, just like in The Crucible. there's a lot of parallels in terms of what Abigail did and what McCarthy was doing as well, although Abigail was definitely brought on in a more antagonistic figure, maybe even more extreme than what McCarthy was doing. Yes, indeed, great points for sure, Carter. Now, shortly after this in the film, there was an exchange, I believe, between Paris and Proctor, pointing to the fact that there is extreme friction between the pastor and much of the congregation. This will later play out into the play when Paris will jump in to accuse those who oppose him in order to eliminate his opponents. Witchcraft, then, was not just a holy cause to get rid of, but rather something to be manipulated into hunting those whom pent-up aggression had nowhere to go. I mean, you had Paris at this point. He was going after Proctor. He was going after anyone had land that he wanted, and he was using witchcraft and Abigail and the girls to essentially manipulate his way into eliminating those around him. So once again, a cause that was supposed to be holy during the Puritan time was quickly manipulated into something much darker than its original purpose. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Oliver, in terms of just the way Paris was using witchcraft in a very deceitful way to kind of get his own goal down and successful. So I believe next Hale came into town and people started to throw all sorts of complaints. This is kind of the equivalent in many other books when a new conqueror comes in, and then there is hundreds of requests and complaints from the people who have had nowhere to throw their pent-up anger against. So you have Hale coming into town, and you have everyone jumping on the opportunity to blame their fellow neighbor and their fellow friends, and any pent-up aggression or hate that had been secretly brooding there during this kind of utopia of a Puritan society all came out at once. So Tituba was next accused. She was kind of the first one that was physically threatened, and in order to dodge the noose, she then confesses to a crime she did not do, witchcraft. This is a common theme in the book. Those who tell the truth are hung and are martyrs, but those who lie live on and will have to live with the guilt of what they have caused. But alas, in order to take the blame off herself, Tituba continued the trend and accused others. But then Abigail, seeing the opportunity to assert her power on the village, jumps in as well. So I'm going to paraphrase here. This is Tituba first. She said, "Sarah Good," weeps. She started crying. "Goody Osborne." So right there you can see Tituba was naming off multiple people, and she was crying about it too, but she felt like she had to. And then Abigail then jumps in and says, "I danced with the devil, but I want to go back to Jesus. I saw Bridget Bishop with the devil. I saw George Jacobs with the devil. I saw George Howe with the devil." Yes, Francis, sorry guys, this is me back here. That was Abigail's line right there. So yeah, Francis, if I might pick up from there, in the film, in terms of this scene in the film, there's at least 10 more other people accused in this very scene. You kind of had the girls bouncing off accusations of multiple people. And what I think Arthur Miller was really trying to express here was that the more people that are accused, the harder it is to prove them innocent. And not only that, the bigger the lie, the easier it is for it to believe, especially when the people listening want to believe the lie. So you had Hale right there, you had Paris right there, you had the judge right there, you had everyone kind of pressing in. They really wanted an answer. They wanted someone to go after. This is kind of that mob mentality that you kind of see throughout the book, and it goes in so many ways, so many directions, and that's a very strong parallel to the McCarthy era, where McCarthy would target someone, and you'd have these just crowds of hundreds of people who would be gossiping and threatening this person, and hundreds of death letters, and everyone was kind of forced to go along with the tide. Yeah, Carter, I find it very interesting that our protagonist lies next. In a conversation with his wife, when his wife makes an accusation against Proctor of sleeping with Abigail Proctor, Proctor says, and I quote, "Because it speaks, and I am honest, but I'll plead no more. I see now your spirit twists around the single error of my life, and I will never tear it free." So first off, this goes to show how ignorant Proctor is. He thinks he has made no other mistakes in his life. And on top of it all, he did in fact have a relationship with Abigail, even if he denies it. So I find this interesting here that Proctor lies to his wife, and not only that, he says he's never had a single other error in his life. I have to disagree with you on this one, Oliver. I think Arthur Miller was trying to show us that our protagonist was human, just like anyone in the McCarthy era. They were all normal human beings with normal reactions. Proctor's wife accused him, and of course he was defensive. It was a human response, and at the time, he was clearly on edge from his last interaction with Abigail. Despite this, throughout the rest of the play, Proctor is punished over and over again for this small error and lies of his, which leads me to believe that the play was making a radical argument that no kind of deception can ever be ethically justified. Try and try as Proctor did, he never could forgive himself of this deceit, and neither could the court. Excellent, gentlemen. This is a great discussion on lies and deceit in the Crucible, and there is simply so much material to go through. The final theme I want to touch briefly on before we end is justice in the Crucible. So there was a very large portion of the book devoted to the court scene, and I just thought that it wouldn't be fair to just talk about the lies and deceit. So the play was extremely hostile towards religion throughout, constantly pointing at the flaws of having no separation between church and state. In the end, Arthur Miller hinted at that those in the McCarthy era never received justice on this planet, just like John Proctor, and the only way they did was maybe in some other realm, and that justice would be dealt to those who lied in the end. No matter how justified the judge felt, or Hale, or Paris, or Abigail, or Proctor, they all had faults. They all lied, and they were all deceitful. So whether it be in this life or the next, Arthur Miller strongly hints at that justice will prevail over all, and that, be sure your sins will find you out. Thank you all for being on 109.2. Special thanks to Francis O'Connor, Oliver Dale, and especially Mr. Bonney, and a shout out to his high school class for tuning in. Thank you, Carter. Loved the lively chat we all had. Yes, thank you indeed for the opportunity to speak about such a fine playwright as The Crucible. No problem, guys. It was a pleasure. I hope all you listeners enjoyed. Next show, we'll be back with a discussion on the similarities and differences between Benjamin Franklin's secular movement and the Puritan and Native American religions. That is all for now, and I will see you guys next time.